So guys, ESPN just put out their full offseason rankings for every team's offensive weapons, running backs, receivers, tight ends, all of it. And somehow the Buffalo Bills landed at 29th in the league, fourth worst group in all of football according to them. This is a team with the reigning rushing champ in the backfield and a top 5 tight end when healthy. So something's not adding up here, and I want to break down exactly what ESPN said and why I think they got this one wrong. What's up, Bills fans? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So ESPN's writer put out this big breakdown of every team's skill position group, and he starts off talking about James Cook. And honestly, I read it twice because I couldn't believe how much they buried this guy. Yeah, he acknowledges Cook can make guys miss, can hit that second level and just take off, but then he spends half the write-up talking about fumbles. 6 regular season fumbles, 1 more in the playoff loss to Denver. And look, I'm not going to pretend that fumble against the Broncos didn't sting. We were driving, we had momentum, and then boom, it's gone, and Denver just took the life out of that game right there. I get why that stands out, but you can't build an entire ranking around one bad stretch of ball security and ignore that this man led the league in rushing. 5.2 yards a carry, 12 touchdowns on the ground? That's not a middle-of-the-pack back, that's a top 5 guy in this league, honestly. It's not even close. You want to talk names? Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, sure, those guys are in the conversation with him. Maybe Derrick Henry on a good year, maybe Jonathan Taylor, but after that, it's James Cook, and it's not a huge gap between him and those top 2 either. So when I see this group get buried at 29th, and the first name mentioned is a guy averaging over 5 yards a pop, I mean, come on, that alone should tell you something's off with this ranking. And it's not just Cook carrying that room, guys. Ty Johnson is one of the better third down backs in this whole league. He's a real matchup problem out of the backfield in the passing game, and Josh Allen trusts him in those situations. Then you've got Ray Davis, who's a legit weapon on returns, and when he does get his touches between the tackles, he's efficient with them. So this isn't a one-man show at running back. This is a room with actual depth, actual versatility, and somehow that's supposed to be one of the worst groups in football? Doesn't add up to me at all. Now, where I'll give a little bit of ground is the receiver room, because look, we've talked about this on the channel before. It hasn't been the strongest unit the last couple years, but even there, I think this write-up is way off. They go after DJ Moore pretty hard, basically saying it's tough to get excited about him even after Buffalo went out and traded for him this offseason. And their whole argument is built around his numbers dropping off last year in Chicago. And yeah, I'm not going to sit here and act like last season was his best year. It wasn't. But you have to look at why. He was losing snaps, losing target share as the year went on, and that wasn't some talent decline. That was a role issue in that offense. This is a guy who, when he's had any kind of real quarterback play behind him, has put up over 1,100 yards in a season. He did that with rough quarterback situations in Carolina, and he did it again in Chicago before things got complicated there. And let's not forget, in the playoffs, this man came up with a go-ahead touchdown against Green Bay. That's not a guy who's lost it. That's a guy who shows up in big moments. He's turning 30 in a couple years, sure, but receivers who run route trees the way he does, who catch the ball as clean as he does, those guys tend to age pretty well. So the idea that Buffalo traded for a guy who's just not a difference maker anymore, I don't buy that one bit. Then there's Khalil Shakir, who honestly doesn't get talked about enough. This guy's carved out a real role as one of the more reliable slot receivers in the league. And yeah, he was dealing with that high ankle sprain last year, which took away some of his explosiveness, but the guy still produced. People forget how good his hands are and how much Josh Allen trusts him on third down. Now, the name everything really hinges on is Keon Coleman, and I'll be honest with you, last year was rough. It was a disappointing season, no getting around that. But from everything coming out of minicamp right now, this dude looks different. He's not relying just on his size and physicality anymore. He's actually using his speed to separate, getting past that second and third level, and that's a real shift for him because speed was never supposed to be his calling card coming out of college. If that translates into the season, this receiver room looks a whole lot different than what ESPN is painting right now. And Joe Brady has put a lot on the line with this kid too. He's basically said there's been nothing better for Coleman's career than him becoming the head coach here. So, put your money where your mouth is, get him rolling. Now, I do think the Joshua Palmer signing was a miss. I'll say that plainly. It just hasn't worked out the way Buffalo hoped, and he hasn't given this team any real third receiver production since he got here. That's a fair criticism, and honestly, it's one of the few things in this whole write-up I actually agree with. But even with that miss, ESPN's whole article somehow doesn't mention Skylar Bell one single time. This kid's been turning heads in OTAs. He's got real juice, and with Josh Allen throwing him the ball, I think he ends up being one of the better rookie contributors on this roster by the time the season wraps up. Maybe he's not putting up huge numbers week 1, but keep an eye on him because I think a lot of people around the league are sleeping on this name. And then you get to the tight end room, and this is where the write-up really loses me. They talk about Dalton Kincaid like he's still proving himself, like the jury's still out. Guys, the jury is not out. Look at the splits from last season. When Kincaid was per field, this offense had a better completion percentage, more yards per game, and Buffalo went 10-2. When he was out, they went 2-3, and Josh Allen's quarterback rating dropped by 20 points. 20 points! That's not a coincidence. That's a guy who changes the entire operation of this offense just by being out there. And it's not just the win-loss record either. He finished first in yards per route run, first in targets per route run, first in yards per target, first in first downs per route run, first in basically every efficiency category that matters for a tight end. That's not a guy who's close to being a top 5 tight end. That's a guy who already is one when he's healthy. And the injury concerns from last year, from what we're hearing, are pretty much behind him now. So when you actually stack this up, a rushing champion, one of the most efficient tight ends in football, a receiver room that's genuinely trending up, 29th just doesn't reflect any of that. And I think by the time this season's over, we're going to look back at this ranking and it's going to feel pretty foolish. All right, that's what I've got for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments where you'd actually rank this Bills offense, because I want to hear your thoughts on it too.